My name's Angelo, and welcome to We Want Picks. I'm going to break down the entire UFC Mexico fight card, giving you my picks, predictions, and bets. But before I do, let's take a quick look at UFC 298. Overall, wild success. You want a little more detail? I have a full recap video for that event. But betting-wise, a huge success. My premium member safety parlay hit. That is the 9th one in a row that hit. Jacob is up units, I'm up units, and everything went well. Yes, Jacob's underdog lock of the week did miss, but in his defense, 11 of those fights, the favorite won. Only one single fight did an underdog win, and that was the main event with Ilia Topuria. I gave you 73% return on investment. Jacob gave you 20%. And if we take a closer look at that safety parlay, it continues to be the beacon of stability. For the entire existence of this safety parlay, since the day I invented it, it hits at a 73% win percentage. More recently, if we zoom in, I have hit 9 in a row, 11 of the last 12, and it is going insanely well. You can unlock the safety parlay for this event and every other event at WeWantPicks.com. Just click Become a Member at the top. It's only $10 a month, and we are in the middle of a huge fight stretch here, so that $10 gets you 4 events worth of picks, data, insight, tools, and more. And our premium members are some of the most successful people on this planet when it comes to betting and finding their spots. Obviously, we're a whole bunch of normal people that love these fights, want to make some money, make Saturday nights a little more enjoyable. But they're doing that at an incredible pace. Our premium members put up $50,000 plus worth of winnings from UFC 298. These are all winning tickets that you see here from premium members only who went out of their way to post them in our Discord. The Discord is 100% free if you want to join and hang out there. There is a link in the description of this video and every other video. And these premium members have access to everything we do, not just the safety parlay, not just some picks and bets, but also the tools. One of those tools is the line movement tracker. You're going to get opening odds, current odds, win probability, and line movement for every fighter on every card. You're also going to get the detailed data, metrics, and analytics. 38 columns of information that you can use to find your spots, jump in the prop bets, jump out of prop bets, and use this information, use this data to do what you need to do to have success and to make some money. All of this and so much more is available for only $10 a month. WeWantPicks.com. Click Become a Member at the top. If you are a DraftKings fantasy kind of guy, we have an optimizer for you. It is included in the membership. It will build lineups for you. A couple of clicks, it'll build you 150 different DraftKings fantasy lineups, and there has been a wild amount of success there in the tune of $400 and something thousand in the last 6 months. This and everything else, $10 a month. WeWantPicks.com. Just click Become a Member. If you want to mail us something, here's the address. I just filmed the vlog yesterday for UFC 298. We had a couple of really cool things sent to us. Somebody wrote a letter. They mailed it to us. I read the letter on screen. It breaks down my entire fight with Jacob. If you haven't seen that, we fought. There's a video. And then we also got a couple of gifts as well. But if you got a small business, you want to send something, you want to make me eat something that I shouldn't be eating, here's the address. You can send that. Let's go ahead and break down this card. UFC Mexico is interesting. Mexico is a market that the UFC is trying to push the hell out of. There's a whole bunch of really tough, really fun, really exciting Mexican fighters on this card. And it's at elevation. That is good and bad. The good news is we don't have any heavyweights on this card. I think the UFC has learned their lesson. Stop putting heavyweights on elevation cards. So no heavyweights. There shouldn't be any sloppy disasters. So now we just have a lot of lighter guys. 3/4 of this card, I believe, is bantamweight or flyweight. And what's nice about elevation there is you get a little crazy. You get guys scrambling, doing all sorts of wild stuff that maybe they wouldn't normally do because they are tired. They are taking chances. This should be a fun card. Let's go ahead and break it down. Opening up the UFC Mexico card, we have Erik Silva taking on Muhammad Naimov. And this should be a really good fight because Muhammad Naimov is kind of a beast. This guy's well-rounded. He does prefer to strike, but he can wrestle if he needs to. He's fast. He's athletic. Old-school martial arts style striking. He likes to plot forward and throw in big combinations. If he closes the distance, he's going to want to clinch you up and then strike inside of there. He will actively defend takedowns early because he trusts his striking, but he does look to take people down later as the fight goes on or if he's losing some of those striking exchanges. Takedown defense is solid. So is his takedown offense. He's coming off the sloppy win over Nathaniel Wood where he did showcase his power and his takedowns, but a whole bunch of nut shots as well. There was an insane amount of fouls in that fight. And I know that's going to be the theme in the comments for this video, for the live stream, is Muhammad Nayev's last win was nonsense. People love Nathaniel Wood and refuse to give Naimov credit for that win. And I get it. I mean, he was like going at that dude's nuts for some reason. Anyway, he's taking on Erik Silva. Erik Silva is an aggressive guy, mostly a grappler. He's going to march forward, stay in your face, throw big, heavy punches, big, heavy kicks, and look to get it to the ground. On top, when he does get it to the ground, he's got great pressure, good control. Everything he does looks like it hurts. He's constantly focused on delivering some damage. He gets wild on his feet, right? He's got some spinning attacks, some jumping attacks, but it's almost like he doesn't take the striking serious at all. He's just out there having a good time, waiting for it to get to the ground. He is coming off that submission loss, though, to downtown TJ Brown back in 2022. Been a while since Erik Silva has fought. And I don't know what to do with this fight. Right off the rip, tough fight. On one hand, I think Naimov did benefit from all of those fouls, from just grabbing crotches, kicking, punching, fence, everything. I mean, he benefited from those for sure. And I think he's a little bit overhyped. On the other hand, Erik Silva doesn't have half the power that Naimov does. And he was finished in his UFC debut. He's a grappler. He got finished by a grappler who drinks too much. And that's not an accusation. TJ Brown said, I drink too much. And especially in 2022. We don't have odds yet for this fight. I'm going to be curious to see where they end up. In my mind, if I'm going to predict the future here, I imagine Naimov is going to be a good size favorite here. He's the more well-rounded guy, the more dangerous guy. He's got a couple of nice wins in the UFC already, so he's probably going to be a good size favorite, probably unaffordable. Naimov is going to be the pick. I would say medium level confidence here. I'm probably going to wait for some prop bets to see what the round lines look like and all of that, but Naimov should win this fight. Will he? Well, it's a fist fight, and that's why we love this sport. But he should win. He hits like a truck. He does have some wrestling as well. And if he gets in any trouble, he can just punch this dude in the nuts, and then he's good. It worked for him last time. Then we have Victor Altamirano taking on Felipe dos Santos. Take a look at Felipe dos Santos. There's about 6 fighters on this card that look exactly like this guy with different hair colors, varying snarls on their faces, but there's a whole bunch of people in this card that look exactly like, to the point where I went back to the graphics and I'm like, I know I have typos and stuff all the time, but did I just reuse this picture over and over? I didn't. It's just what a lot of people look like apparently. But we got Victor Altamirano, 12-3. Good amount of fights, 15 fights in his career. This guy's fast, he's powerful on his feet, but he's also patient and he's calculated. He has an impressive 5-4 striking differential. That speaks to his pressure. His takedown defense has improved. It's at 63%, but if he is taken down, he's very busy and he doesn't accept bottom. He's coming off that loss to Tim Elliott, where he was taken down 6 times, and he did spend most of the fight on his back, but he never fully settled and was constantly throwing up submissions, trying to make something happen. He's taking on generic-looking Felipe dos Santos. This guy's a shoot-a-box fighter, and he's going to fight like that gym fights. He's aggressive. He's dangerous. He's good everywhere. He has dyed his hair. But also, like most shoot-a-box fighters, he's hittable. He likes to pressure forward. He's going to throw everything he can, but that does leave him open for counters and takedowns. He's capable on the ground. He does have some offensive takedowns, but they are not great, and he does slow down later in fights. He will take chances, and he doesn't... the chances don't always work out for him. He'll chase something, lose the position entirely, and then be screwed. He is coming off that fight of the night loss to Manuel in his UFC debut. And this should be a really fun fight between 2 guys that are going to go at it. This whole card is loaded with these small guys that have tons of energy and are constantly looking to make something happen. This is another one of those fights. Neither one of these guys stop. They're both constantly looking for finishes. Dos Santos is going to be far more dangerous between the two of them, and it's probably why he's the 3-1 favorite here. Both of these guys had very tough opponents in their last fights, and honestly, both of them looked really good. Even Victor in that loss, he never accepted bottom, never stopped working. Felipe dos Santos, yeah, Manuel, that's a tough fight, especially in your UFC debut. They both had some success. I got there. They both had some success, and they both look good in those fights. I am going to lean the side of danger here. You got to go shoot a box in some of these matchups. Shooter box is an interesting gym. They all fight almost identical, and then they end up somehow looking the same too. It's like women who sing cycles. Anyway, okay, let me take a deep breath and relax. You've probably noticed we're only like 6 minutes into this video. A whole bunch of jump cuts already. I've been fumbling and stumbling and bumbling. In my defense, I was up till 2 watching the fights, getting the website ready for this. Then I had to wake up, do the recap video, like reset, woosah, reset. Felipe is going to be the pick. I think he's the more dangerous fighter. And because of that, I am going to pick Felipe dos Santos to win the MMA fight at UFC Mexico this Saturday. Hopefully, we somehow get a 1.5 round line, and I will pick the over. Because even though Felipe dos Santos is tough, Victor Altamirano is also tough. 2 tough guys. Felipe is the pick. Medium level favorite. Confidence. Then we have Luis Rodriguez taking on Dennis Bondar. Another fun fight. Oh, and look, flyweights again. 80% of the flyweight roster is on this card. And thank God, because if they started throwing the big boys on an elevation card, it would be a nightmare. We got Luis Rodriguez. This guy's a patient striker. He's got some very real power. He likes to plot forward. He likes to find his spots, and he'll just lay it all on the line, hunting for a finish when he does find that spot. He has no problem eating leg kicks so that he can counter with big hooks. He is dialed in. He is laser-focused on the feet. He's got a solid chin, but he can be hit because he keeps his hands not like low, but they're not where they should be. They're like at shoulder height. So he does get hit because of that. He's got decent takedowns, decent BJJ, but it only works for him if people take him down because he's not really taking a ton of people down. You're going to see the 2 takedown average. Just so you know, the way these statistics work, these are UFC-only statistics, and it is extrapolated. This is 2 takedowns per 15 minutes. If the fight is only 1 minute long and you get 2 takedowns in that 1 minute, they multiply that by 15. And then there's the numbers. So sometimes the numbers can be a bit deceiving with people that don't have a lot of fights in the octagon. The more time you have in the octagon, the more accurate the takedown and grappling numbers are. The less time you have, well, then obviously the less accurate it is. Same with strikes. It's significant strikes landed per minute, and you could see some wildness if it was a super fast knockout. Anyway, Luis Rodriguez, solid BJJ, can make something happen on the ground, but despite what it says with 2 takedowns on average, he's not always shooting. He's taking on Dennis Bondar. This guy is wild. He comes charging forward, he wings punches in all directions, and then he drops to your legs, picks you up, and then will Matt Hughes style slam you. Basically what Merab did to Cejudo yesterday. He walks away, he dumps you on the ground. His takedowns and slams are very impressive. On the ground, impressive. I am a disaster. Impressive. On the ground, he has submissions, but they're all basic. And that's not an insult. They're basic as in he's sticking with fundamentals. It's head and arms, arm bars, things like that. He will work for positions. He will move really well on the ground, but he's not likely to throw something crazy up in a scramble. That's not who he is. He is coming off that loss, though, to Carlos Hernandez, where they bashed heads, but the fight went on long enough. They said, let's go to the scorecards. We don't need to continue here. And he lost that decision. You're going to see that Dennis Bondar has a TKO loss, an embarrassing one, if you look at the name on the other side. But that was a freak injury. He is a very durable guy. He's normally looking to grapple. If Luis keeps this fight standing, I think he's going to win this fight pretty handily, honestly. He might get an actual stoppage. It'll be Bondar's first official TKO loss. But I don't know if he can keep this standing. Luis is too patient with the striking and too heavy on his feet. Dennis can work forward, duck under one of those counter hooks, and then work this fight to the ground. Dennis is going to be the pick, but it's impossible to know what's going to happen. This fight, I'm just going to watch without any bets. The reason we've been so successful this year betting is we're not betting on every fight. There's no reason to put up 20 units a week. I'm putting up 4 or 5, depending on the card, and it's been working out well for me. This is not a fight that I'm going to spend some money on. It is an enjoyable fight, though, and it should be a ton of fun. Then we have the original BJJ nerd. The original butt scoot nerd. We got Claudio Puelles taking on Fares Ziam. Claudio Puelles is a fantastic grappler. He's dangerous anywhere on the ground. He has 3 knee bar wins in the UFC, which is a record. That's an insane amount. Knee bars are not a normal thing to get, let alone 3 of them. That's how dangerous Claudio Puelles can be on the ground. He is only 27 years old, and he does have a good amount of experience so far. He is a grappler. He uses kicks to keep distance. He's never out of a fight because if he gets to the ground, he will always be live for something. He averages around 3 takedowns per fight, but he does have a negative striking differential of almost 2 to 3. He's coming off one of the most embarrassing losses I've ever seen anybody have. A super embarrassing loss to Dan Hooker. He couldn't get a takedown, so then he just resorted to rolling around on the ground like a child, begging for some engagement, and it obviously didn't go his way. We saw some of that same nonsense with Carlos Vera at UFC 298. It's embarrassing, and people need to learn some takedowns or give up the sport. Rolling around on the ground like a toddler, hoping somebody engages with you, is not going to work at a high level. Although it has worked for Claudio in the past, just not against Dan Hooker. He's taking on Fares Ziam. This guy's a long, rangy striker who also works well in the clinch. He manages range with solid kicks, and when he decides to close the distance, he gets that clinch going, and he throws tons of elbows in there. He's a technical fighter, and he does avoid risks. He picks his shots well. He only engages when he sees an opportunity. He takes his time, and he looks to point his way to victory. He's coming off that win over Jai Herbert, where point fighting was enough to get the nod. I don't know if I made it clear there. Fares Ziam is like insanely technical, low-volume guy, boring to watch. He's not going to take any chances, but he is good, and he does get some wins. I believe myself and Jacob invented the term jiu-jitsu nerd. Maybe somebody else has also said it, but I think we invented it. And it literally started because of that Claudio Puelles fight. And you heard me rant and rave last week about Mackenzie Dern, her lack of wrestling. Claudio is more of the same, except he's not as tough as Mackenzie's at least tough as shit. Claudio is not that tough. He will just lay on his back like a turtle with an upside down shell like this. Please, please come down here. Please. I know I can't take you down. I know I'm not dangerous on the feet. So will you please come to me? That's how Claudio Puelles fights. It's nonsense. It's annoying. And he may win this fight. He could win any fight he's ever been in because while I'm making fun of that, he is insanely dangerous. Insanely dangerous. And even just a mediocre takedown attempt can create a scramble where he can end up on top and he can get it done. But I can't possibly sit here and say, you know who's going to win the fight? The fist fight inside of a locked cage? That guy that scoots his ass across the mat asking you to come down to the ground with him. Can't do it. Fares Ziam's going to be the pick. I think his range control is going to make Claudio just frustrated. Claudio's going to have no way to get this to the ground when he's all the way in the outside like that. Probably going to resort to pulling guard at some point. Fares Ziam is the pick. But again, what are you going to do? You're going to bet on a guy that lands fewer than 3 strikes a minute? You can't do that either. So Fares Ziam is going to be the pick. I am done with the jiu-jitsu nerd nonsense. It's embarrassing for the sport. I did this rant in my UFC 298 recap video, but if somebody who doesn't normally watch UFC watched Carlos Vera in that fight this weekend against Rinya Nakamura, how do you explain that to people? No, I promise this is a fun sport. No, these guys are badasses. It's embarrassing. And then, like, what's the big insult in the MMA community? You're a casual. You're a casual. The reality is 90% of people are casuals. The casuals are the ones the UFC is trying to convert to the loyalists like us. And I can't convert my neighbor to be a UFC tried and true watcher. That was worded weirdly. But how am I going to convert him if he came over yesterday? The first fight he saw was Carlos Vera. And then he's going to come over this Saturday, and the first fight he sees is Claudio Puelles doing this bullshit. It's done. I'm done with the nerds. Fares Ziam is the pick. I may bet on him out of spite. I might be spiting my wallet, though, which is a stupid idea. And then we have a rematch. We have Edgar Chairez taking on Daniel Lacerda. And that's just so our Spanish-speaking viewers know Yeah, I can roll those R's. I can make something happen. But we got Edgar Chairez rematching Daniel Lacerda. He beat him already. At least that's what the referee thought. He had Daniel in a deep, tight choke. The referee thought Daniel was unconscious, so he stepped in, separated them, realized Daniel was wide awake, totally fine, and said, ooh, my bad on that. So now they're running it back. We got Edgar Chairez. This guy's a solid fighter. He made his short notice UFC debut against Tatsuro Taira, where he almost shocked the world. He knocked him down, had a very deep submission at one point. He was a plus 600 underdog. His striking defense is fast. No, offense is fast, in your face. His takedowns are decent. His BJJ is very good. The only real issue for him is that he is hittable. The striking defense is not really there. He gets touched up. You could see that negative striking differential of 2.6 to 4.2. But he does have some solid BJJ. He will use it. He will come forward. He's got a solid chin, and he will kind of let his hands go. He's taking on Daniel Lacerda. This poor bastard is still looking for his first UFC win. He's 0-4-1 in the UFC. This poor bastard. Style-wise, though, he's a solid striker. He's got good kicks, good forward pressure. If he gets it to the ground, he's got really good control, great pressure on top, but his takedowns are not very good, so getting it to the ground is not up to him all the time. He is a feast or famine guy. All 11 wins and 5 losses are by stoppage. And then the 6th loss that the referee overturned, also stoppage. He's very dangerous, but he will put himself into harm's way to chase a stoppage, and as we know, that doesn't always work out for him. He is coming off of that no contest with Edgar Chairez. Before that, he was in a war with CJ Vergara, where he almost had CJ out cold 5 times maybe in that first round. And then the second round, he did what he did. Fizzled out. Lacerda officially 0-4-1 in the UFC. He keeps getting fights, and honestly, it's because he's so exciting. This guy is very talented. You can see flashes of a UFC-level fighter in his fights. The loss to CJ was wild. It was absolutely perfect most of that fight. He looked incredible. And then he gave it up, but that says more about CJ's durability than it does Lacerda's skill set. Lacerda, plus 200 dog. That's going to widen. People are going to go watch the first fight, or they're just going to see the results of the first fight and assume, okay, Daniel Lacerda going to lose this fight. He basically lost the last one. I do encourage you to watch the last one, because while it was the referee stepped in and overturned it, Edgar was losing that fight. He was sort of getting pieced up a little bit. He lucked into that submission. Yes, the submission was there, and if the referee didn't separate him right then and there, I don't know. You can't assume what would happen, but I would think that it would continue to get deeper and deeper, and eventually Edgar was going to get that. But what I will say is Daniel Lacerda was sort of winning that fight before Edgar lucked into the submission. I am still going to pick Edgar here, mostly because Daniel has proven that no matter how dangerous he is, no matter how talented he is, he's only got a couple of minutes of that. There's only a good 5 minutes of danger and talent. And Edgar Chairez, if he's anything, he's tough, and durable. Duff no longer stands for designated ugly fat friend. It now stands for tough and durable. We made that word. Edgar Chairez is duff, and I think Edgar Chairez gets this done. And there's 0% chance this fight goes to the decision. 0%. So it's going to be juiced. It'll be minus 800. But that might be worth, pull your money out of your kid's college fund, sell your primary vehicle. If you have life insurance out on your parents or your spouse, take a loan against it. You'll be fine, dude. You'll be fine. This fight is not going to go trust me, bro. This fight's not going the distance. Edgar should win by finish. Then we have a Jesus Aguilar taking on Mateus Mendonca. Jesus Aguilar is a solid grappler. He's got a knack for finding guillotines. And not like in a weird, nerdy, let me just jump guillotine sort of way. He's got 9 wins, 7 of them stoppages, and 4 of those are guillotine. More than half of his stoppage wins are by guillotine. And I mentioned they're interesting because he's not just waiting for you to shoot and then, oh, got one, let me pull guard. He's actually setting them up. He's moving your head. He's like making guillotines happen. He just happens to have a very good one, and he knows how to force those things and force those positions. He can strike as well. He's got solid combinations and what seems like pretty decent power. He can be a bit wild, but he's very active and very fun to watch. He's coming off that 17-second knockout win over Shannon Ross last summer. He is taking on Mateus Mendonca. This guy's another very cookie-cutter shoot-a-box fighter. Solid striking, solid BJJ, aggressive, colored hair, but also very hittable. He is primarily a grappler, though. He's going to work to the cage, get that control, and work the takedowns. He can also strike. He'll mix in some elbows, some spinning attacks, and he's always coming forward. He is coming off of the TKO loss to Nate Maness. This fight has the internet split. The betting odds have Mendonca as the favorite. So he is the favorite on the sportsbook. But the Tapology world has picked Aguilar at 75%. I'm going to spit some math out for you. Math-wise, that is saying that the sports books think Mendonca wins 58% of the time, okay? And then the people say that Aguilar wins 75% of the time. That is a 26% difference between what the people think and what the sports books are saying. That's not a normal variance at all. That's a very wide variance. And unless you're a janitor at MIT, that might have been hard to follow. But the reality is, the point to this lesson is that huge difference between who the sports books think you're going to win and who us, the general public, think you're going to win. I actually am going to agree with the sports books here. I think Mendonca is the more dangerous fighter, and I think he can win this fight on the feet or on the ground. But if you're in the 75% camp, if you're part of the 75% of people that think Jesus Aguilar wins this fight, then jump on. The sports books are giving you the odds. The sportsbook thinks that Aguilar only wins 42% of the time. You think he wins 75% of the time. Bet the difference. I am on the other side. I do think Mendonca gets it done. I think this is a sloppy mess of a fight, and I think Mendonca can come out the other side. Then we have a Cristian Quinonez taking on Raoni Barcelos. I'll tell you right now, I am a Raoni Barcelos kind of guy. I have been picking this guy forever. He's a 5-time national champion wrestler. I'm all over that. I love to hear that. So I'm going to try to put my bias aside and break this down. We got Cristian Quinonez. This guy is relentless. Awesome forward pressure. He likes to bait people into brawls, and then he'll look to grapple as soon as you engage with him. His technique is not the cleanest, but he does not stop coming forward, and he's going to make up for any technique gaps with pace and pressure. At times, his pace can actually be too fast. He'll initiate a scramble. He'll jump on top. And he's just going too fast that he can't settle. He can't get his hips down. He can't stop the motion. He'll just fall right off the top. So he's literally working too hard at times, and it works against him. But again, he is in your face. He is absolutely relentless. He will throw his hands. He will shoot takedowns, and he will make stuff happen. He's coming off that submission loss to Kyung Ho Kang, where he was knocked down and submitted in under a half a round. He's taking on Raoni Barcelos. This poor guy is 1-4 in his last 5. But he's also incredibly well-rounded. He can still get wins at this level. I'm positive of it. Striking-wise, he's got great low kicks, solid volume. He sets a great pace. Wrestling-wise, I mentioned, 5-time Brazilian national champion wrestler. He averages almost 2 takedowns per fight. He has a 90% takedown defense. He's good everywhere, but he has definitely hit a very unfortunate skid that likely leads him towards retirement, with the most recent being a decision to Kyler Phillips where he was dropped and just outworked the whole time. I'm a big Raoni Barcelos fan. I have unsuccessfully picked him to win in his last couple of fights. I was expecting him to be an underdog here because of that skid, because he's 36 years old, because he's only won 1 fight in his last 5, but he's not. He's a -175 favorite. He is almost a 2-1 favorite. And skill-wise, that makes a ton of sense. That makes complete sense. Nasty wrestler with solid striking. He's fighting a guy that wants to brawl and grappler. Raoni's impossible to take down. But as so many times before, Raoni Barcelos is going to be old. He might get hit. He might slow down. I've bet on him time and time again, thinking he was going to wrestle. He doesn't always shoot takedown. I got to be done with Hani. I have to be done with a 36-year-old bantamweight that has only won one of his last 5 fights. I have to be. And it's not like they took Hani Barcelos and they rushed him to, like, all right, he lost to Umar Nurmagomedov. Got it. Credible loss. The other losses, kind of trash. Yeah, Kyler Phillips is busy. He's active, but is he good? Not really. Victor Henry, that bubble was burst a few times. So all of a sudden, Hani Barcelos is losing the guys he shouldn't be losing to. The Timur Valiev loss, fine, that's okay. But he's a few years removed from a good performance. That good performance was over somebody who is no longer in the UFC. Hani Barcelos is 36 years old. We know that aging out in these lower weight classes happens much faster than the higher weight classes. He was knocked unconscious not too long ago. Got to be done with the guy. Underdog pick, Cristian Quinonez. He is not the better fighter in this matchup, but he is absolutely the younger, fresher, more durable fighter in this matchup. Before we move to the main card, just give me a second. Let me brag about the safety parlay again. I am very proud. This is my baby. I am very proud of this. And I know the minute it misses, it's going to feel like the world is crumbling on me. And actually, that's not even sarcasm. I take this insanely seriously. It does affect my personal life when the safety parlay misses. Like, it'll destroy a day, and I have to, like, look at my kids and, like, legitimately focus on the fact that, like, hey, it's okay. Focus on the kids. Don't ruin everybody's day because you missed a bet. Relax. Not that big of a deal. But it is a big deal. And the safety parlay has been hitting at a just unfathomable success rate. I've hit 9 in a row, 11 of the last 12. It hits at a 73% event rate, and the lifetime ROI is 31%. Those are astonishing numbers for a single bet in this space. If you want to unlock the safety parlay, just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. It's only $10 a month. You're going to get that and literally everything else you could ever want or need heading into fight weekend. I'll also send you $50. The only thing you need to do to get $50 from us is go to WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up with any one of our betting partners using the link. Make a deposit, and we send you $50 as a thank you. It's affiliate marketing. They're going to pay me. I will slice off some of that money and give it right back to you. WeWantPicks.com/bets. Sign up, make a deposit. We send you $50. And opening up the UFC Mexico main card, we have Manuel Torres taking on Chris Duncan. This is an excellent fight. Manuel Torres is a well-rounded guy. He is a dangerous striker and a dangerous grappler. His striking is not super technical, but he uses knees from the clinch really well, and he loves throwing head and leg kicks. If you look at his physique, he is long and skinny, and he really does a great job working with that. His submissions are long limb style submissions. He's going to wrap up triangles, power guillotines, anything that uses leverage and length. Same exact logic with his clinch work. He is so long that he can keep his ass or hips way back and then just fire huge knees right up the middle and not need to worry about you dropping down and taking a shot. He is coming off of his second knockout win in the UFC. He's taking on fellow striker, insanely durable, Christopher Duncan. Chris Duncan is a heavy-handed guy. He is tough as nails, and he is never out of a fight. And I say never out of a fight because he has more than one fight where he was dropped, then recovered, came back and won. Style-wise, accurate striker, very low hands, though. Lots of power and a willingness to bang. He can grapple as well. He's got 9 takedowns in 4 fights, but he can struggle with control. He's coming off the decision win over Yanal Ashmaus, where his striking was clean, and so were the takedowns. This fight's dead even. The odds are dead even. One sportsbook might give a couple of points to Duncan, another to Torres, and that's just bouncing up and down a little bit. Dead even fight. And I've gone back and forth myself. On one hand, we have Manuel. This guy is insanely dangerous, both standing and on the ground, and he has only been to a decision once in 14 wins. Basically, the same logic applies to Duncan. Offensively, very dangerous. We know how insanely tough he is if things are not going his way. But I do think Torres is the better fighter and the more dangerous guy. But he would not be the first prospect that we saw who had a ton of finishes, a wild streak, things are going well, and then all of a sudden he does not get a first-round finish and then completely comes apart at the seams. We got the Philly fraud from a few weeks ago. We got Gabriel Bonfim from a few months ago. A lot of these guys who are racking up finishes end up in a tough fight and don't know what to do. And that's what makes this such a tough pick. But I'm going to have to go with Torres anyway. I can't just assume he's going to be a busted prospect if it's a tough fight. I have to look at the skills and look at what they've done. On one hand, he's got a ton of finishes because he's so dangerous and so good. I can't also fault him for that. I can't credit him for it and then fault him for it by saying, well, he's never been in a tough fight. I can't do both. So I am going to pick Torres here. I think he's the more dangerous guy. We're going to find out if he's the more durable guy. But eventually, Chris Duncan won't just be able to take all of this abuse all the time. He can't just constantly get dropped and then pop back up like The Undertaker. That just can't be. So I'm going to go Manuel Torres here. Duncan can survive a beating. So we'll see what that looks like. Over 1.5 might be solid, but Chris does tend to get his ass kicked early, and then it slows down. But for now, Manuel Torres is going to be the pick. Then we have Yazmin Jauregui taking on Sam Hughes. Yazmin Jauregui, if you remember, huge underdog loss. Huge underdog loss. And now they're like, here's Sam Hughes. You can win this fight, right? You can beat Sam Hughes. And that's what they're doing here. They're trying to get Yazmin, who they thought was a prospect. They're trying to get her back in the win column at home. And I get it because Yazmin is a powerful striker with a very promising career. She's got fantastic pressure, very impressive combination. She'll enter the pocket with high kicks and she'll finish with overhands and uppercuts. If she smells blood, she will just throw everything at you to try to find that finish. And as impressive as her striking is, her grappling is almost as impressive. She's got fantastic body lock takedowns and takedown defense that she uses to end up on top. I mentioned she's coming off that massive loss. She was a huge favorite against Denise Gomes, and Denise Gomes came across the cage, blasted her in the face, and put her out in under 20 seconds. It was wild. She's taking on Sam Hughes. Sam Hughes is a pressure fighter. She is basically a weight bully. She's not tremendous. I mean, she's 5'5", how big could you? But she fights like a weight bully. She's very hittable, a negative striking differential. She has worked wrestling in over her last couple of fights with 7 takedowns and plenty of pressure. She is insanely tough, but she's not dangerous. She'll exploit her opponent's cardio holes, but she will take a beating along the way. She's coming off the decision over Jacqueline Amorim, where the submission defense was on display. I mentioned the UFC set this up for a reason. They want to get Yazmin back on track so they could have another Mexican prospect to push, and that's what's going to happen here. I mean, again, sometimes you just have to trust the process. Sam Hughes is crazy tough. She's not an easy fight for anyone, but I do think Yazmin is insanely talented. Sure, just knocked out almost instantly, but that actually doesn't tell you much. If Denise Gomes beat the brakes off of Yazmin for a round and a half and then finished her, Yazmin's a busted prospect. Essentially a flash knockout in 20 seconds. It doesn't tell me much other than you can be knocked out. So now we know Yazmin, if you hit her right, she can be knocked out. But it doesn't show me an actual weakness other than her chin is human. And I don't think it matters because Sam Hughes doesn't hit nearly as hard as Denise Gomes does. So Yazmin Jauregui is going to be the pick. Very confident in that pick. But Sam Hughes has played spoiler before. Then we have Raul Rosas Jr. taking on Ricky Turcios. And I mean, just look at this picture. Look at these people. Look at them in their eyes. This is like it looks like Ricky's joking. Like that looks like an SNL parody of like a CKY video from 2002. Look at these guys. I'm getting all hot and bothered. Anyway, we got Raul Rosas Jr. Super young, but pretty good. Non-stop grappler. He showed us some power in his last fight. He does have 8 takedowns in 4 fights with 19 minutes of control time. His striking definitely does need some work, though. He comes in a little reckless. He can put himself into harm's way for no reason, but he is fast, he's athletic, and he sets an absolutely relentless pace. He is coming off the sub-1 minute knockout win over Terrence Mitchell at Noche UFC. He's taking on Ricky Turcios. I mean, the death, I gotta look at my notes like this. I can't, if I look at Ricky Turcios in the eyes, I'm going to end up possessed somehow. Ricky Turcios, fun to watch. Crazy style. His fighting style is as crazy as his eye contact is in this picture. He moves forward. He's got a ton of pressure and an insane variety of strikes. He throws anything from anywhere, and he smiles while doing it. In half of his UFC fights, he landed more than 100 significant strikes, and that includes a loss. He doesn't have much to offer outside of high volume and high pace because he has a very low 25% takedown accuracy and a sub 50% takedown defense. But he is good. He is busy. He's coming off a controversial win over Kevin Natividad, where he was dropped and taken down 7 times, but had absolutely relentless pressure, and he created enough scrambles to get the nod. If all you did was look at stats or Tapology and pick fights from there, you could potentially have success just looking at numbers and riding the wave. But fights like this will lead you down a path you don't want to be on. The stats are going to say that Rosas averages around 4 takedowns per 15 minutes. And not only does Ricky have poor takedown defense, he just gave up 7 takedowns. But if you watch tape, you'll see that his scrambles, as in Ricky's, scrambles and pace are insane. In fact, he has 2 fights in the UFC where he was taken down 6 or more times, and he won both of those fights. And he won those fights because he thrives in the chaos of wrestling scrambles. He has his most success defending takedowns, landing, outpacing his opponents. We watched Rosas dominate and then gas in the Cristian Rodríguez fight. And even though he has a win since then, that win was sub 1 minute and a knockout. We still have no idea if Raul Rosas Jr.'s cardio is any better. We have no idea if it's cleaned up. Rosas should win here because we know he has power in his hands now. We know he's got the better BJJ, and we know he can wrestle. I do not trust him. The last time he fought somebody that he didn't finish instantly, he dominated the first round, gassed like crazy, made terrible decisions, and then lost. That's exactly what could happen here if he loses a scramble or 2 to Ricky Tercios. I'm going to leave this alone. I'm not touching the Raul Rosas betting line here. I just need to make sure that he actually has cardio. Let's see a fight where he works through the scrambles, gets the cardio going, doesn't gas out, and we'll be good. So Raul is still going to be the pick, but I can't possibly bet on him in this situation. Then we have Daniel Zellhuber taking on Francisco Prado. Daniel Zellhuber is an impressive striker. He's got very aggressive and dynamic style. He has incredibly long limbs, and that gives him power, range, and leverage for grappling exchanges. And despite his long legs, he has solid takedown defense and does a very good job kneeing and striking his way into and out of those exchanges. If he is taken down, he's wrapping his opponents up and using his length to threaten with submissions. He's coming off the bonus-paying submission win over Christos Gallegos, where he didn't even need a takedown to wrap up an anaconda. He's taking on Francisco Prado. Francisco Prado is a power striker who comes in hot with big looping shots and head kicks. He's got nice Muay Thai clinch. He's got insane power, but he also keeps his head straight up in the air, and he can be touched up. He can grapple as well, and while it's not his plan A, he can still shoot doubles and use his power to scoop you up and slam you down. He's incredibly explosive, incredibly dangerous, but he does tend to slow down. He's coming off the first round knockout win over Atman Azaitar. And this is a pretty common breakdown, right? Everything I'm about to say, I've said many times about other fights. We have Zellhuber, who is the more well-rounded fighter, who has more ways to win, and Prado, who will be the more dangerous fighter. And unless we're talking about heavyweights here or somebody over 38 years old, I will always go with the more well-rounded fighter. 9 out of 10 times, if I have somebody that is dangerous and really only has one way to win, or somebody that has multiple ways to win, not as dangerous, I will go with the multiple ways to win. I will go with the well-rounded fighter. Zellhuber should be able to avoid the early storm, should be able to stay on the outside, let Prado exhaust himself, and then take over. Zellhuber is going to be the pick. This is a really nice spot for a win inside the distance decision, no action bet. I had 2 of those at UFC 298, and they both were funded. I had Jeff Neal. I got a refund there. And then I had Paulo Costa. I got a refund there. Paulo's almost paid. And that bet is phenomenal when you have somebody that's very, very tough and dangerous. So Francisco Prado is very, very tough, and he's dangerous. So Zellhuber, in all likelihood, wins a decision here. But if Francisco connects the same way he did against Otman Azaitar, I would get paid. If he loses the decision, I get a full refund. Those prop bets don't drop till Tuesdays, but the very second it drops, we will put it on the board and you will have full access to it. Just make sure you're a premium member at WeWantPicks.com. Just click Become a Member at the top. And then we have the co-main event of the evening. This is another rematch. And you're going to see the results say that Yair run by TKO. That's not entirely accurate, and we'll talk about that in a second. We got Yair Rodríguez taking on Brian Ortega. Yair Rodríguez is a fun, athletic guy. He will spin kick his way to a knockout. He will entertain you the entire time he is in the cage. He is tough to deal with because his striking is so unpredictable, and even if it does open him up for takedowns, he is capable enough on the ground to throw up submissions or create scrambles and stand back up. He has been taken down in 10 of his 13 UFC fights, and he did have a 63% takedown defense before the Volkanovski fight. His last fight against Volkanovski, he was taken down 7 times, stopped in the 3rd round. That threw off all the numbers, but I will remind you, the Volkanovski that beat Yair Rodríguez was the Volkanovski before Islam knocked him out. That Volkanovski and the current one are 2 very different fighters, and we did see that last night, unfortunately. He's taking on Brian Ortega in a rematch. Brian Ortega is a phenomenal grappler who, like so many others, does not have very good wrestling. He has a low 23% takedown accuracy. Can't really get this fight to the ground if he isn't given a golden opportunity. He does have solid offensive striking, though. His defense could use a touch of work. He is hit with almost 7 significant strikes per minute, which is a very high number. He is hot and cold in his fights, which makes breaking him down pretty hard. He looked like a lion, like a king against Frankie Edgar. And then he looked soft and a little bit of a sheep against Max Holloway. He looked like a lion against Korean Zombie. And then a sheep, little baby Baba, against Volkanovski. He did have a half a second, a little more, I'm being a little dramatic here, but he did have almost successful submission in the Volk fight. But outside of that, not much at all. But he is coming off of the TKO shoulder injury to Yair Rodríguez a year and a half ago. And that was the point I was making before. You'll see that this is a rematch. And you'll see Yair won by TKO. But that's not how that fight went. It was actually a very even back and forth first round, where Yair was cleaner in the striking, but Ortega had some cage control before an eventual takedown, and then on the ground, his shoulder popped out, and the fight was over. If that lasted another 40 seconds, Brian Ortega would have been up 1-0 on the scorecards. And this is such a tough fight to pick because Yair is light years ahead of Ortega in the striking. But Ortega is tough, and he's got cardio and the better grappling for those exchanges. This is at elevation, and cardio does matter. I think Brian closing the distance, working in cage control, will do well for him. And this fight in America, Brian probably gets the judges' nod 7 out of 10 times. But it's in Mexico. The crowd is going to be insanely loud anytime Yair does anything. And that could influence the cage side judges. We've seen it happen before. They're only human. And if they're hearing people scream and yell and cheer and they're seeing strikes, you can't tell if it landed, but 20,000 people just scream like it did, you might lean that direction. So I do think it's going to be a little harder for Brian to win this fight in Mexico City. I know Brian Ortega has discussed how his layoff was very hard on him. Multiple injuries. He was like, should I even keep doing this anymore? Is fighting even worth it? But he is here. Yair Rodríguez just got the shit beat out of him. Brian Ortega is coming back after a year and a half away. I think the playing field is about as level as it can be, given the fact that there's a layoff here. And I think Brian Ortega can win this fight. I am split, though. My brain and my gut are saying 2 different things. My brain is saying we saw 5 minutes of this fight already, and Brian won that, so he should win this. My gut is saying otherwise. My gut is saying long layoff, lots of injury. Yair Rodríguez is busy and dangerous. But I'm going to go with the brain. My gut has let me down more than one time, mostly in Taco Bell drive-thrus. So screw the gut. We're going with the brain, and the brain is saying it's a tough fight to call. Very low confidence in that call, but we watched a little bit of this fight. Sometimes You take a loss that's so bad you don't fully recover, and I feel like that might have been what happened to Yair Rodríguez. Brian Ortega, very dangerous, and if he is what he was when he left, we'll have no way of knowing until Saturday. He might show up, be a shell of himself, not ready to go, tentative, all those things, but he's never been soft. He's always been an in-your-face kind of guy, so I think I'm going to trust Brian Ortega here to squeak out the win. And then we have the main event of the evening, another rematch, the third rematch on this card. We got Brandon Moreno taking on Brandon Royval. I mentioned this is a rematch. Moreno won the first fight and won by finish. I mean, pretty straightforward. And this breakdown should be pretty straightforward as well. Brandon Moreno is in his first fight since losing his title in his second rematch in a row. He lost his title to Alexandre Pantoja. That was in a rematch, and now he's in another rematch. Style-wise, he's an absolute dog. He is a ton of fun to watch. He is very tough. He's got a great chin. He puts out a non-stop pace. He averages almost 2 takedowns per fight, and he does mix things up really well. His biggest asset is definitely his pace and his will to win. He's going to continue to move forward and stay busy regardless of what is happening. He's coming off that split decision loss to Alexandre Pantoja in his first title defense. He's taking on Brandon Royval. Brandon Royval is also insanely exciting. One of the most exciting guys to watch in the division. He's always looking for a finish. He is dangerous both on the feet and on the ground. His striking is fast, it's powerful, it's diverse. His grappling is aggressive, with tricky submissions and a willingness to chase them. He throws crazy, he brings a ton of pressure, and he just always moves forward. Brandon Royval is a problem for a lot of people. He is an absolute killer be killed kind of guy, though, and that can be a problem for him. All but 2 of his UFC fights ended by finish. He is coming off of his own loss to Alexandre Pantoja. This fight has fireworks written all over it. 2 guys who will absolutely get after it and chase finishes. And while this should be a very fun fight, I don't know that it's going to be a competitive one. Moreno should be pretty much better everywhere. And while Royval did show durability in his title fight, that was more of a wrestling match than anything. I think Moreno is going to dog this out, eventually break Royval, most likely 4th or 5th kind of round. But Moreno's a very confident pick here. He has already won this fight. I think he wins this fight again. And I think he has progressed more than Royval has since their last fight. So Brandon Moreno is the pick. He will win at home and maybe set himself up for a title rematch. Guys, become a premium member. We've been nothing but successful in 2024. Let's continue this success throughout the rest of the year. Premium membership is going to get you picks, bets, analysts, round line leans, and more. It's only $10 a month. Just go to WeWantPicks.com, click Become a Member at the top. You're going to unlock things like the detailed data, metrics, and analytics, 38 columns of information that you can use to find your own spots. You're going to get the line movement tracker. This is going to give you the opening odds, the current odds, the win probability, and the line movement for every single fighter on every single card. You're also going to get more than just me and Handsome Jake. You're going to get other analysts as well. 2 of those analysts happen to be Artem. Artem is breaking down far more than just UFC. You'll have a PFL versus Bellator breakdown later this week. You're also going to get the Pick Doctor. That is an AI that is picking fights at an incredible accuracy using data and analytics alone. Don't forget, guys, support us, follow all the stuff. You don't want to spend the money becoming a premium member? Totally fine. But what you can do is like, subscribe, and do all of those things. We're on every single social as We Want Picks. Thank you so much. I can't be more genuine when I say how much I appreciate all of the love we have gotten. These last couple of weeks have been absolutely amazing. The growth is incredible. The feedback is incredible. All of you have been nothing but amazing. So thank you all very much. Good luck this card, and make sure you join our live streams.